I'm sitting here with a stack of news articles regarding Hillary Clinton that have come in over the weekend, and I thought I'd just go ahead and bring that to you in a special edition so as not to clog up my current event show tomorrow with it. I'll tell you what, she's in the news an awful lot, and everything I'm seeing is negative. My goodness gracious, and you know, I think she should just change her name to Teflon Drawers, 'cause there is nothing that sticks to her behind. I cannot see how in the world anybody can have this much negative stuff come up on them and still remain in the race for president of the United States. This is absolutely unprecedented in all my years of voting and being, well, not necessarily involved, but watching the election process go down. I've seen a lot of mudslinging, a lot of foolishness go on during the race, but I have never in my life witnessed anything like what I have been seeing with this. But let's just go ahead and jump on into these articles and let's just see what old Teflon Drawers has going for her this time. First one we've got here is off of regated.com. I'm waiting for my computer to catch up to me because I'm really loading it down with all this. My goodness. First one here says 3 examples of media collusion. And now my screen's jumping on me. Gotta wait for it to calm down. Okay, 3 examples of media collusion with the Hillary Clinton campaign. WikiLeaks' Podesta email dump has given us an unprecedented glimpse behind the scenes of what is the political machine Leviathan, Hillary and Bill Clinton. Unfortunately, the mainstream media has covered these leaks in the most minimal manner possible. Furthermore, millions of Americans have lost what little faith they had left in the mainstream media. What we've learned from the Podesta emails is that they paint a disturbing portrait of a complicit press willing to do whatever the Clinton camp demands. This is especially disheartening when one considers that the press has all the power in this relationship. Clinton needs the press far more than the press needs Clinton. Had the press not been working with the Clinton campaign, this election would have already been over. NYT's chief correspondent, Mark Lebovich, struck me as a decent human being trying to do his job and navigate an imperfect world. However, we have all lost our way in this country with our incremental professional ethical concessions for the greater good. The press has not been exempt from this. The following 3 emails are some of the most egregious examples of media collusion between the mainstream media and the Clinton juggernaut. Number 1 is the New York Times writer gives Clinton campaign veto power over a profile piece. And this is how it reads. On Tuesday, July the 7th, 2015, at 10:28 p.m., Jennifer Palmieri, and then it gives her email address. It says, I thought you told me that you wanted us to pick. Sent from my iPhone. On July the 7th, 2015, at 9:51 p.m., Mark Lebovich, and his email address is written, says, so just the Moose sends Palin and none of the other stuff I sent you. The last 2 questions I don't believe I asked to use. On July the 7th, 2015 at 9:31 p.m., Jennifer Palmieri says, my apologies for the delay. I finally had to get her in person. Fine to use the Moose, but appreciate leaving the mention of Sarah Palin out. From last 2 questions, fine to use everything from the paragraph starting and to get serious for just a minute till the end of the interview as on the record, with the exception of this passage which I ask you to leave out. And gay rights has moved much faster than women's rights or civil rights. which is an interesting phenomenon somebody in the future will unpack. Let me know if that is not closer. Working from an iPhone on the plane, so I'm not able to access the transcript to cut and paste. If helpful, we can do that when we land. Pleasure doing business. The first email includes an interview between Hillary Clinton and Chief National Correspondent for the New York Times, Mark Leibovich. The interview transcript itself is fairly innocuous profile fluff. What is interesting is the fact that Leibovich defers to Jennifer Palmieri, Clinton Campaign Director of Communications, on what he will be permitted to publish. Mr. Leibovich wrote an explanation piece in the New York Times in which he describes the hoops the Clinton campaign made him jump through. Take it for what it's worth. The Globe editorial board coordinates release of op-ed by Clinton for her campaign appearance. And this one says, from Marjorie Pritchard at theglobe.com to John Podesta at gmail.com. Date is 7/26 of 2015. And it says, regarding Boston Globe op-ed page calling. Thanks, John. I'll stand by for the piece. Best regards, Marjorie. And on Sunday, July the 26th, he writes back, Marjorie, I'm sorry I have been away and thought this was taken care of. We should get you a copy today, and Brian will be in touch. Again, apologies, John. And then on Sunday, July 26th, Marjorie writes, hi, John. Just wondering if we are still on for that piece. Brian said last week it was ready and just needed approval. It would be good to get it in on Tuesday when she's in New Hampshire. That would give her big presence on Tuesday with the piece and on Wednesday with the news story. Please let me know. Thanks. This is relatively straightforward. Clinton wrote an op-ed for the Boston Globe about employee profit sharing. The Boston Globe waited for final approval before publishing it and appears to even suggest a release date for maximum impact for Clinton. Number 3, Katie Couric promises massive social media reach and engagement in exchange for an interview. Hi, John. Well, I know you had a good weekend. We've been working with the campaign folks to reschedule my interview with Secretary Clinton. I wanted to write you about some of the metrics that we are getting and let you know through placement on Facebook, we can guarantee 1.5 million views in addition to Yahoo engagement, which has been close to 1 million for my political interview. I'd also like to do a repartee piece of business through social media along with the lines of 10 things you don't know about Hillary Clinton. That would showcase her personality and has a lot of viral potential. I know there is a lot of demand on her time, but we have been waiting patiently to schedule something, and I'm sure we've been driving the campaign staff crazy, but the reach of engagement will be significant, and I'm very much looking forward to having the opportunity to talk to her. I've been assured the campaign wants this as well. Can you help me make this happen? I'd really appreciate your help. Thanks, John. Look forward to hearing from you. Best, Katie. This was the journalist equivalent of please respond. Ms. Couric promises Podesta that Clinton will be assured a Facebook reach of about 1.5 million views plus Yahoo engagement of around 1 million. Couric also proposes some kind of softball listicle pimping Clinton. These promises are essentially granted prior to interview and have the distinct air of I'll give you this, this, and also this. Couric comes off more as a public relations employee of Clinton than any kind of journalist. It's important to note that Mr. Leibovich's explanation of the email, he notes that this type of horse trading is common in today's media atmosphere with political candidates. I do not have any reason to believe he's lying, but I fear that makes the situation worse. These emails read as though the press were nothing more than the extension of the Clinton campaign. Most of the mainstream media sees nothing wrong with this situation, which is why they still don't understand how the electorate ended up so angry. The next article that I have for you is off of angrypatriotmovement.com. Breaking. You have been served. And I'm waiting for the page to calm down here. Here we go. Hillary just got the worst news of her campaign. The mainstream media might just have to begin a brand new round of defending Hillary Clinton on the issue of her mishandling of classified information through her private, unauthorized, and illegal email server. It appears another device with copies of every deleted email has been discovered. Breitbart.com reports that a backup device called Datto containing Clinton's private email exists. They report that Judicial Watch has discovered the device in the possession of the FBI. They have now of Information Act request to pressure the agency into producing the long-forgotten device, sending the FOIA request by certified mail so as to have a record of the request. The existence of a full record of Hillary Clinton's 33,000 deleted private emails could very well be a game changer. That's if the FBI produces the material in an expedited manner, just within 24 days until Election Day. Every second counts. The very existence of this device is generating a panic both behind the scenes in the Beltway and in the Clinton camp. As the FBI continues to get maligned over its fake investigation into Clinton email scandal, the Clinton team would be fatally damaged by what would be exposed further by information contained in those emails. The FBI Director James Comey investigation into the Clinton email server crimes was based on just a small number of email discoveries. These discoveries were made using a splatter pattern, shot-in-the-dark discovery process that had no congruent method. Therefore, the full extent of Clinton criminality was not exposed. That the FBI didn't look at each and every one of Clinton's emails actually served to help Clinton avoid prosecution. Had the FBI examined all the emails like the hackers at WikiLeaks, instead of just select informationally disjoined emails, it would have dramatically changed the result and most likely had led to a prosecution. The Judicial Watch FOIA request demands any and all records, including but not limited to emails or text messages, SMSs, MMSs, BBMs, iMessages, etc., discovered, recovered, retrieved from, or found on any Datto device. Any and all records concerning or relating to the FBI's efforts to discover, recover, retrieve, or find emails or text messages stored on the Datto device, equipment, or hardware references in request number 1. A Datto device is an online backup service that creates copies of data kept on physical server. In other words, it is tantamount to a mirror server that can be used to retrieve information in the event of a catastrophic server event, like, say, server being bleach bit erased. Hillary Clinton unauthorized and illegal homebrew email server was using a Datto device throughout its existence. This reality presents an opportunity for Clinton team to launch into full-blown panic, given that the disjointed FBI investigation and WikiLeaks has already confirmed that Clinton's server illegally contained classified and top-secret material. That Clinton homebrew computer company didn't realize her machine was still communicating with the Datto device until shortly before they surrendered it to the FBI. It's a blunder that could cost Mrs. Clinton both the election and her freedom. At noon, the Datto company announced it had surrendered a hardware device to the FBI. They also said in a statement they had surrendered all Clinton emails the company had in its possession. As time is the tyrant here, the question in all this will be how much pressure comes to the FBI from the Obama Justice Department to obstruct Judicial Watch's FOIA request, as the DOJ is dirtier than Tammany Hall and the Chicago Daily Machine combined. You can bet this will be slow walked like a slug moving through molasses. So there you have that article. And the next one I have is off of Conservative Tribune. It says, leaked. Hillary blames climate change for hurricane, but what's in her emails tells a different story. Like most good progressives, Democrat presidential nominee Hillary Clinton has railed publicly about the dreaded man-made climate change and global warming, blaming fossil fuels by Americans for all the woes in the world, including weather events like hurricanes. Thanks to WikiLeaks' publication of thousands upon thousands of emails, internal memos, and other documents, the American people have been able to gain a better understanding of where Clinton and her closest supporters really stand on a number of issues. However, not much has been discovered in those leaked messages yet regarding climate change, even though it is a big issue for Democrats, conservative talk radio host Rush Limbaugh observed on Tuesday. Limbaugh noted, I can find them strategizing about any number of things in the WikiLeaks email dumps, but there's not a thread on climate change whatsoever. Why is that? If climate change were that big a deal to these people, don't you think they'd be talking about it internally? Limbaugh was right. And that a big deal is liberals like Clinton and former Vice President Al Gore and President Barack Obama like to make climate change. It does seem odd that nothing related to that has turned up in these document dumps. That said, there are still literally thousands of documents left to be sifted through by intrepid citizen journalists and alternative media outlets, a task left to them since the liberal-based mainstream media have been diligently working overtime to ignore what has been revealed thus far. In all likelihood, something will eventually turn up, such as the revelation in one of Clinton's paid speech transcripts that showed her speaking positively about fracking, a drilling technique used to extract natural gas, something she has publicly denounced as responsible for such things as earthquakes and poisoned water, as reported by The Intercept. This is just another example of Clinton's self-professed public-private differentiation on certain issues, telling American voters one thing in public while telling donors and fellow politicians something entirely different behind closed doors. So there you have that article. And the next one we have is off of regated.com. Wait for my little hamster to catch up to me here. Here we go. Let's see. Scroll down on this a little bit. All right. WikiLeaks reveals Clinton campaign took donations from foreign agents. Bill and Hillary Clinton have long and sordid reputation when it comes to foreign donations to both Bill's presidential campaign and Clinton Foundation. Chinese foreign national donations to Bill's campaign was so large that it warranted its own name, Chinagate. The specter of foreign financial influence in the Clinton political aspirations has grown larger today, with an email chain featuring many of Hillary Clinton's top campaign staff debating the relative merits of accepting foreign donations by registered foreign agents. The United States passed the Foreign Agent Registration Act, or FARA, to minimize foreign intervention in U.S. elections and establishing a series of limitations on foreign nationals. These included registration requirements for the agents of foreign principals and general prohibition on political contributions by foreign nationals. In 1974, the prohibition was incorporated into the Federal Election Campaign Act, the FECA, FECA, giving the Federal Election Commission, FEC, jurisdiction over its enforcement and interpretation from FEC.gov. The spirit of the law was simple: prevent foreign influence by money in U.S. policy and politics. Follow the email chain was released by WikiLeaks as part of a document dump called from the email of Clinton campaign chair and longtime confidant Anthony Podesta. And they've got a copy of that here regarding foreign registered agents. Says, take the money, sent from my iPhone. It's from Jay Palmieri to RE470 or 47 at HillaryClinton.com. Says, Mark made a convincing case to me this AM that these sorts of restrictions don't really get you anything, that Obama actually got judged more harshly as a result. He convinced me, so in complete U-turn, I'm okay just taking the money and dealing with any attacks. Are you guys okay with that? Says the email chain features a who's who of Clinton insiders debating the relative merits of accepting donations from foreign registered agents, with Mark Elias appearing to implicitly accept that accepting donations from Ferris was akin to accepting donations from governments they represent. And here's a quote: "If we do it case by case, then it will be subjective. We would look at who the donor is and what foreign entity they are registered for. In judging whether to take the money, we would consider the relationship between that country and the United States, its relationship to the State Department during Hillary's time as secretary, and its relation, if any, to the foundation. In judging the individual, we would look at their history of support for political candidates generally and Hillary's past campaign specifically. Put simply, we would use the same criteria we use for lobbyists, except with a somewhat more stringent screen. As a legal matter, I'm not saying we have to do this. We can decide simply to ban foreign registrants entirely. I'm just offering this up as middle ground. The legality of the campaign decision is beyond my expertise, but the theme of the Clintons' long political career has always been a matter of unethical behavior squeezed through sickening legal loopholes. Hillary's campaign was already the anointed winner. WikiLeaks has proven that beyond a doubt. This email illustrates how the Clintons always have and always will govern, not under the banner of what's right, but rather a banner of what can we get away with. At no point in the email chain do we see any calls for concern over the ethics of accepting donations from nations with abysmal human rights violations like UAE. Hillary has run a campaign on women empowerment, but time and again her actions have revealed a person who believes little to nothing of what she espouses. The only concern, even vaguely approaching anything beyond how much money will we lose, is voiced by Mark Elias. This is really a straight-up political call. One middle option is to take it case by case. If, for example, they are FARA registered for Canada, we may not case. If for North Korea, we would. It is worth noting that multiple times within the email chain, Clinton staff mentions that President Obama refused donations from Ferris. The commitments are borderline derisive, and it's not difficult to imagine Obama's decision left them with the impression that he was a naive amateur in the world of presidential politics. A total ban on FARA donations feels arbitrary and will endanger the same eye-rolling and ill will that it did for Obama, is a quote. It says, kudos to President Obama for taking an ethical stand in the face of pressure from condescending globalist elites. WikiLeaks has given the average American an unprecedented look at what the elites actually think of us. Eye-rolling seems to be the nicest way to describe it. So there you have that one. The next one we have here is off of BizPack Review. And it says, David Axelrod is looking for an excuse to get Hillary out of the third debate, something Trump said just gave him one. And the debate is coming up this week. I believe it's Wednesday night. It says, Democrat strategist David Axelrod was instrumental in getting President Obama elected. Thinks Hillary Clinton should consider backing out of Wednesday's debate now that Donald Trump has asked for both candidates to be drug tested. And here's his quote. It says, drug testing? You have to wonder if Hillary Clinton should reconsider the next debate given the depths to which this is sunk. And then This article goes on and says, I think we should take a drug test prior to the debate. Trump proposed to a crowd in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And I reported on that in a article I did yesterday in one of my reports. It says some Democrats, starting with Howard Dean, suggested that Trump might have been on cocaine at the previous two debates because he sniffled. The GOP presidential nominee said he's willing to prove himself clean, but thinks his opponent might have something to hide. A lot of things are going on, folks, Trump said. I think she's actually getting pumped up. If you want to know the truth, she's getting pumped up, you understand, he continued. You know, maybe we're like athletes. I beat 17 governors and senators. I beat all these people. We're like athletes. Hillary beat Bernie, although it looks like Bernie got a little bit of a bad deal if you look at WikiLeaks. But we're like athletes, Trump said. Athletes, they make them take drug tests, and I think we should take drug tests prior to the debate. Many on social media thought the idea of drug testing the candidates was a fantastic idea. And there's a whole slew of tweets here where, but let's see, I'm just going to pick one at random. Let's see, Brenda McWhorter says, if you have to take a drug test, if you work for many places in the U.S., president is working for us. Agree. That's just one of a slew of them that's down here. So if you want to read those, you can pull up that URL and take a look at them. And of course, all these URLs are in the description of my video, so you can take a look at them and research them at your leisure. Some of them have some video and stuff in them you might want to take a look at. It says, next one in here is off Political Insider. It says, George Soros owns voting machines in key states. We have to fight against voter fraud and the possibility that the left is going to try and steal this election for Hillary. We know what she and her DNC cronies did to Bernie. George Soros, the shadowy billionaire who personally funds much of the far left, has sent a crony out to rig this election. His tentacles are all over Hillary and the Democrats. Nothing in that sphere happens without him personally controlling it or knowing about it. Proof that Hillary and Soros are out to control and manipulate the election for their own benefit. And this is what that part says. It says, in Smartmatic, the troubled Venezuelan-linked voting company recently partnered up late in 2014 with a firm called SGO. SGO is headed up by one Lord Mark Malloch Brown. Brown, as it turns out, is a rather curious and troubling figure. Brown, you should know, has close ties to George Soros and rents a Soros-owned house in New York. Brown gets a sweetheart deal at only $10,000 a month. He also serves as the VP of Soros's hedge fund, the Quantum Fund. In the U.S., Smartmatic has offered technology and support service to the electoral commissions of 307 countries in 16 states, or counties, I should say. 307 counties in 16 states: Arizona, California, Colorado, District of Columbia, Florida, Illinois, Louisiana, Michigan, Missouri, New Jersey, Nevada, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Washington, and Wisconsin. Those are key states. Soros and his lackeys can't be allowed to steal our democracy from under us. We have to stand together and say enough. There it says, this is the video is entitled "Outside Groups Pour $45.8 million into Nevada Senate Race." So you can pull that up and take a look at that at your leisure. The next one I have here is off of lawnews.com. It says, breaking: WikiLeaks email may link Clinton campaign to Scalia assassination. And there's an email it shows here from E.L. Metter, or Mendorf, I guess it is, E.L. Mendorf, and to John Podesta. And it says, I am all in. Sounds like it will be a bad night. We all need to buckle up and double down. From John Podesta. Okay, the next one's from John Podesta, and it's to Steve E.L. Mendorf, I guess it is, or Elmendorf. It says, didn't think wet works meant pool parties at the vineyard. Scalia died in the night of February 12, 2016, or morning of February 13th, 2016, under very strange circumstances. Did the Hillary have something to do with it? Under the inconspicuous subject line, thanks, Podesta writes, didn't think wet works meant pool parties at the vineyard. Wet works, or wet works, it has been pointed out, is a military euphemism for assassination. Elmendorf responds with, I am all in. Sounds like it will be a bad night. We all need to buckle up and double down. The exchange is dated February the 9th. Scalia died at Ceblo Creek Ranch on the 12th, just before he was set to potentially overturn affirmative action. Despite the suspicious circumstances surrounding his death, Scalia was immediately embalmed within 24 hours of his body being found. No autopsy. Ceblo Creek Ranch just so happens to have a pool and is located near what some say is a vineyard. So there's that article for you. The next one that I have here is off of weeklystandard.com. It says, an attempted Hillary email cover-up? A senior State Department official repeatedly pressed the FBI to change the classification of emails stored on Hillary Clinton's private server, according to FBI interview summaries set to be released in the coming days. Patrick Kennedy, the Undersecretary of State for Management, discussed providing additional overseas slots for the FBI in exchange for revisions to classification of the sensitive emails. The 34 summaries, known as FBI 302s, will be released in connection with Freedom of Information Act requests and after pressure from the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. 2 additional 302s are being withheld because they contain information classified at the top secret SAP level. The summaries described to the Weekly Standard by 5 intelligence and congressional officials familiar with their contents are sure to bolster Donald Trump's criticism of corruption at the Clinton State Department, the FBI in Washington, D.C., with just more than 3 weeks until the 2016 presidential election. The story about potential reclassification of Clinton email unfolds over 3 of the summaries. A senior FBI official in the International Operations Division describes the conversations with Kennedy about the classification of emails. In his interview, this official says his section of FBI had attempted to contact Kennedy repeatedly over the course of several months in the spring of 2015. Kennedy did not return the calls. In the late spring or early summer of 2015, the FBI official reported to work surprised to find a note indicating that Kennedy had called. According to the summary, Kennedy wanted help. The FBI official spoke with Kennedy, and Kennedy raised the possibility of keeping at least one Clinton email from public disclosure by obtaining a B-9 exemption under the Freedom of Information Act, a rarely used exemption that refers to geological and geophysical information and data. One email in particular concerned Kennedy, and according to the FBI summary, providing a B-9 exemption would allow him to archive the document in the basement of the Department of State, never to be seen again. The FBI official told Kennedy that he would look into the email if Kennedy would authorize a pending request for additional FBI personnel in Iraq. A summary of the interview with the section chief of FBI Records Management Division provides further evidence of Kennedy's attempts to have the classification of some sensitive emails changed. The FBI record official, whose job includes making determinations on classification, told investigators that he was approached by his colleague in international operations after the initial discussion with Kennedy. The FBI record official says that his colleague pressured him to declassify an email in exchange for quid pro quo. according to the interview summary. In exchange for making the email unclassified, the state would reciprocate by allowing the FBI to place more agents in countries where they are presently forbidden. The request was denied. In the days that followed, the FBI record official attended an all-agency meeting at the State Department to discuss the In the days that followed, the FBI records official attended an all-agency meeting at the State Department to discuss the ongoing classification review of pending Clinton FOIA materials. One of the participants at the meeting asked Kennedy whether any of the emails were classified. Kennedy purposely looked at the FBI records chief and then replied, "Well, we'll see." After the all-agency meeting, the FBI records section chief met privately with Kennedy. According to the FBI interview summary, he reported that Kennedy spent the next 15 minutes debating the classification of the email and attempting to influence the FBI to change its markings. The FBI records section chief also told investigators that he sat in on a conference call between Kennedy and the FBI counterterrorism chief Michael Steinbach. Kennedy again pressured Steinbach to exchange an email from classified to unclassified, and Steinbach denied. The next article is off of EUTimes.net. And this one says, Hillary Clinton's sudden move of $1.8 billion to Qatar Central Bank stuns the financial world. An intriguing Ministry of Finance report circulating in the Kremlin today says that elite Western bankers were stunned and bewildered a few hours ago after the Bank for International Settlements registered a $1.8 billion transfer from Clinton Foundation to Qatar Central Bank through the facilitation abatement of JP Morgan Chase and Company. And for reasons yet to be firmly established, says, note some words and or phrases appearing in quotes in this report are English language approximations of Russian words, phrases, have no exact counterpart. Okay, so this is a translated article. It says, according to this report, the Bank for International Settlements is the world's oldest international financial organization and acts as a prime counterparty for central banks in their financial transactions. The Qatar Central Bank is the bank of the Gulf state nations government and their bank of banks. JP Morgan Chase and Company is the United States' largest megabank, and the Clinton Foundation is an international criminal money laundering organization whose clients include the Russian mafia. With Hillary Clinton's U.S. presidential campaign chairman, John Podesta, having long-standing ties to the Russian mafia and money laundering, this report continues. The Foreign Intelligence Service, or SVR, maintains complete, all times, all ways surveillance of him and his criminal associates, including both Hillary Clinton and her husband and former U.S. President Bill Clinton, and who are collectively designated as the Clinton crime family. On Saturday, the 15th of October, this report notes the SVR reported to the MOF that Hillary Clinton and John Podesta met with JP Morgan Chase Company CEO Jamie Dimon at Clinton's Chappaqua compound outside of New York City, and who in 2009 both President Obama and Hillary Clinton allowed to break U.S. laws by his diamonds being able to buy millions of dollars of his company stocks prior to the public being told his JP Morgan Bank was receiving a Federal Reserve $80 billion credit line. And that caused JP Morgan stocks to soar and have had an astonishing 920% dividend growth since 2010. Within 12 hours of the Hillary Clinton, John Podesta, Jamie Dimon meeting at the Chappaqua compound, this report continues, the BIS registered the transfer of $1.8 billion from the Clinton Foundation to the Qatar Central Bank. To why the Clinton Foundation transferred this enormous sum of money to Qatar, this report explains, is due to the long-standing ties between this Islamic neo-patrimonial absolute monarchy and then U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, who oversaw or managed the massive bribery scheme that allowed this Gulf state nation to secure the 2022 World Cup, and that the Qatarians were so appreciative of. They donated millions to the Clinton Foundation, and incredibly, in 2011, gave former U.S. President Bill Clinton $1 million for a birthday present, bringing Hillary Clinton's total cash grab from these Persian Gulf sheiks of $100 million. All occurring as recently released secret emails revealed Hillary Clinton's knowledge that both Qatar and Saudi Arabia were, and still are, funding ISIS. To what Jamie Dimon related or said to Hillary Clinton that caused her to suddenly transfer $1.8 billion to Qatar, this report notes, revolves around his J.P. Morgan Bank being told by the U.S. Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC, in April of 2016 that this mega bank's master plan to save itself had serious deficiencies that could pose serious adverse effects to the financial stability of the United States. 2 months after the FDIC's warning letter to Jamie Dimon in June 2016, this report says he cryptically sounded a warning that the United States subprime auto loan bubble was nearing collapse and stated that someone's going to get hurt. Unbeknownst to the American people, MOF experts in this report explain is that just 8 weeks ago, multiple warnings began to be issued that the United States' $1 trillion subprime auto loan bubble was beginning to collapse. And that this past week, because so severe, the Bank of America issued a recession warning telling its elite customers that this market is scary. And the British-based multinational banking and financial services company, the HSBC, likewise issued a red alert warning all of its clients, warning them to prepare for a severe market crash. With one of the first victims or casualties of this subprime auto loan bubble being the German global bank giant Deutsche Bank, that is nearing its doom and laying off tens of thousands of its workers worldwide. This report grimly states the American mainstream propaganda media is failing to allow the people of that nation to know the full extent of this looming catastrophe, who, unlike Hillary Clinton, who has just protected $1.8 billion of her wealth, will be left defenseless once again at the hands of their elite rulers. As WikiLeaks' secret Hillary Clinton emails have now proven that the U.S. propaganda mainstream media is now totally controlled by her, and who continue their blackout of the Clinton crime story of the century. This report continues the absolutely horrifying statistics released this week, showing that an astounding 35% of Americans who have been brutalized by the Obama-Clinton regime these past 8 years are so buried in debt they can no longer pay their bills, is likewise being kept from these most innocent of peoples. And rather than the U.S. propaganda mainstream media warning the American people of their economy's looming destruction, the report concludes they have instead begun a systematic mainstream misinformation campaign to manipulate the presidential election polls showing Hillary Clinton leading, but that stands opposed to actual but unreported polls showing Donald Trump leading. Critical note: a highly classified SVR amendment to this MOF report states that upon Qatar receiving Hillary Clinton's $1.8 billion earlier today, one of that skeletons royal places was ordered emptied in preparation for the early November arrival of a high-value dignitary. Hillary Clinton, perhaps? So there you have that article. Interesting. The next one we have is off of U.S. Defense Watch, and it says, Hillary is a demon who will put a noose around our necks if elected. And this one reads like this. It says, several weeks ago, Julian Assange stated that Hillary Clinton is a demon who will put a noose around our necks if elected. Assange is quite correct. Hillary Clinton is a demon. She's a walking, talking, supporting character from the Amityville Horror's Red Room of Terror. She's a lying criminal who is just incapable of expressing or feeling empathy for anyone. She would have found a home at a death factory like Auschwitz, where SS personnel exhibited similar psychopathic traits as Mrs. Clinton. She is a ranting, violent individual who has and will destroy anyone in her path without the slightest feeling of remorse. This election is unprecedented on many levels, but mostly for the reason that a major political party has nominated someone who is the most corrupt candidate to ever run for president of the United States. Her crimes go back a quarter of a century and involve bribery, fraud, obstruction of justice, conspiracy, violations of Espionage Act, perjury, and in the case of Vince Foster particularly, an accomplice in what was certainly a murder. Whitewater, Chinagate, Travelgate, threatening Bill's victims, the Clinton Foundation, Benghazi, the email scandal, the list is endless and frankly sickening. Bill and Hillary Clinton corrupt, threaten, and destroy people like they are pieces of bath tissue to be disposed of when the deed is done. They could care less how many people's lives they ruin as long as the money rolls in and the power remains intact. The Clintons have corrupted the DOJ, the FBI, the State Department, the White House, nearly all the mainstream media, who's under threat, bribery, or ideology, are complicit in attempting to usher in an ailing crook as president. The rule of law has been destroyed in the United States in order to ensure that villains occupy the White House. We're now living in a banana republic, courtesy of the Clintons. Like all tyrants in history, the Clintons are evil geniuses at manipulating and threatening people to go along with their machinations. Like the devil, Hillary Clinton is full of deception and lies, and her entire campaign strategy is predicated on lying and hoodwinking a good chunk of the nation that is uninformed, overly sensitive, politically correct, and naive. Like the devil, Hillary Clinton is full of venom and hate for half of the nation she refers to as irredeemable and deplorable, hate for Catholics, evangelicals, Southerners, Latinos, and everyday Americans, aka the middle class. Hillary Clinton has nothing to run on except a 30-year career of incompetence and scandal. Therefore, the focus must shift to Trump's character. In what can only be described as coup d'etat, the mainstream media is running a giant disinformation campaign designed to take down Trump and ensure the globalists can continue their rape of America. Trump is being painted as a sexual predator when the real predators are the Clintons. If Hillary's past crimes weren't enough, she's the puppet of the globalists who, with her firmly ensconced in the Oval Office, will break this great republic into 1,000 pieces. A President Hillary Clinton would be dangerous not only to the Constitution but to life on Earth itself. She would decimate religious freedom and freedom of the press, while without a doubt, my goodness, get my eyes to work correctly here, eviscerating the Second Amendment. If this woman is elected, a reign of corruption and lawlessness will hang over the nation like an evil gray pall, eventually suffocating it. With the direction of the globalists, she would open our borders to tens of millions of unvetted immigrants from Latin America and the Middle East. More jobs would be given to illegals and disappear to foreign countries. Wages would fall farther and poverty would be off the charts. Her maniacal, reckless temperament, combined with her general incompetence, would possibly ignite a nuclear war with our Cold War adversary. Today, Jill Stein called Hillary dangerous and said she would start a war with Russia. Of course, Hillary would start a war with Russia. That's what the globalists want. Hillary is the dark side agent of destruction who will bring a plague upon the city of the hill if elected. Pray for Trump. And that's how that article reads. The next one we have here is off of Dave Hodges' Common Sense Show. And this one says Clinton's plan to confiscate guns, history shows where that leads. Sometimes it can be utterly amazing the gifts that one can be sent while they sleep. I awakened to a new WikiLeaks revelation that are significant. Clinton and gun confiscation. Clinton has been very consistent through the campaign by being very vague about gun control. Clinton has consistently said that we need to get the guns out of the hands of the criminals, whatever that means. What she's not saying is what all of us who work in the independent media already know. Anybody who opposes the obliteration of our borders, opposes free trade agreements, is a veteran, believes in the Second Amendment, and follows Jesus, is criminal in the eyes of the NWO minions who have hijacked our government. I owe the government of Ecuador and Mr. Assange an apology. Most, including some of the best contacts, knew that Ecuador was threatened with being destroyed if the latest round of WikiLeaks information was ever made public. Perhaps an apology is not in order. Following information is significant, but it is not of the earth-shattering variety that Assange promised. In fact, if Assange had never released this information, we would still understand Clinton's position on gun confiscation anyway. Further, I have been told that what is being revealed is about a 1 to 10, or as about a 1 on a 1 to 10 scale. As to what Assange has managed to gain control of, the revelation is relatively benign. However, it still serves warning to all gun owners that your private ownership days of guns is almost at an end. And it should serve as notice to all Americans that a Clinton presidency will bring genocide. Brian Fallon, Clinton press secretary, has previously stated that Clinton would support gun controls through closing the gun show loophole by executive order. Clinton is also on the record as saying she supports universal background checks and the ability for private parties to have the right to sue gun makers. As an aside, then why would Clinton support victims of deadly pharmaceuticals the right to sue companies like Eli Lilly and Merck when they produce drugs that kill and maim its users? Instead, Clinton, as a senator, has supported removing the right of patients to sue over bad drugs in case of rules for thee, but not for me. In a Fallon email, which dated 10/4/15, Fallon revealed that Clinton planned to use executive orders to impose the gun show loophole and the right to sue gun makers. The latter practice will eventually end all gun manufacturing in the United States. I guess that only Hillary Clinton has the right to immerse herself in the arms business. Step back for a moment and ask yourself this question. If Clinton's so opposed to the private ownership of guns, then why would she misuse her position as Secretary of State to broker arms deals with terrorist states in exchange for donations to the Clinton Foundation? And of course, the Clinton Foundation is funding much of the Clinton campaign. How many felonies did you count in this paragraph? I count 3 felonies. Clinton is not opposed to private ownership of guns. She's only opposed to Americans privately owning guns. If she will misuse executive orders to allow lawsuits against gun makers and to basically end gun shows, which are unconstitutional acts, then what would prevent her from issuing an executive order for gun confiscation? That short answer is that we now know Clinton's position without a doubt. The WikiLeaks revelation is nothing that the amendment or independent media did not already know. All we have is an email from her campaign manager stating that Clinton supports closing down gun shows, allowing gun makers to be sued, and she wants universal registration. I reported earlier this week that Assange and Ecuador would broker a deal that would allow release of benign information from WikiLeaks hacking. I was correct in that assertion. However, Clinton's willingness to bypass Congress in order to one day seize our guns is worthy of an historical reminder. The University of Hawaii sponsors the Democide Project, in which it reveals that there was 19 genocides in the 20th century and that every genocide was preceded by gun confiscation. And people wonder why I oppose Clinton presidency with every fiber of my being. And the next article I have for you is off of conservativetribune.com, and it's a secret video. Hillary plans executive order on guns. So this is just pretty much a reiteration of the last one, I guess, but I'll read it. It says, video footage captured by James O'Keefe Project Veritas revealed what Democratic president nominee Hillary Clinton has in mind for the Second Amendment. She's going to make all that stop, or she'll go further than President Barack Obama has. At any rate, the video was taken at a fundraiser held by Democratic donors, Amy Rayo and Harry Plant, at their home in Palo Alto, California. Former Democrat Senator Russ Feingold of Wisconsin attended the fundraiser and was recorded as saying that Clinton might issue an executive order on guns, just as President Barack Obama had done. If there's still Republican control in Congress, and if Hillary is elected, is there anything she can do to an unidentified person? Asked Feingold. Well, there might be an executive order, the former senator said. Feingold, see, scroll up a little fast for me. Okay. Feingold also said that an overwhelming number of people in Wisconsin believe that there should be background checks. But what I do is I go with the majority view of people of the state, which is very common sense, he said. They believe there should be background checks. Overwhelmingly, they believe there should be background checks for the internet for gun shows. Fundraiser host Rayo also weighed in on the topic, saying Clinton wanted to shut down as many of our freedoms as she could. Hillary wants to shut it down. If we can get guns away from everyone in this country, she'll close the loopholes. She'll get rid of assault weapons. She'll get rid of being able to buy, unlimited bullets. She's going to make all that stop, Rayo said. You're never going to get guns totally out of their hands. It's Second Amendment, right? But you can get sensible gun laws passed, and Obama didn't do it. She'll do it. If anyone can do it, she'll do it. You watch the hidden camera footage here, and there's the video if you want to pull that up and watch it. And it says, we've never had any doubts that Clinton wanted to do everything she can to make guns hard for Americans to get and keep. This video demonstrates how much her supporters believe she'll do it if afforded the opportunity. And it's an opportunity we can't allow her to be given. So there you have that article. And the last one that I have on this is BizPac Review. New Hillary Clinton team email reveals she plans to use token blacks to give appearance of valuing black folks. A new batch of purportedly hacked emails from an account of Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, John Podesta, was released on Sunday, and one does not look good for the candidate's courting of the black vote. In it, Podesta drew out a plan to pander for the votes of African Americans simply by hiring a black person in prominent role for appearances. And there is an insert of this message. It says, the black is obvious supercritical, is hearing the same complaint in political circles that I continue to hear while fundraising. The campaign doesn't value black folks and takes us for granted. Can I make a suggestion? A black campaign vice chair or senior advisor will go a long way during the primary and send the message that Hillary puts her actions where her mouth is and actually does appreciate the black vote. And the article goes on, says the black is obvious supercritical. I'm hearing the same complaint in political circles that continue to hear while fundraising. The campaign doesn't value black folks and takes us for granted. Frank White Jr., a hedge fund manager and founder of and CEO of Du Sable Capital Management, wrote to Podesta, can I make a suggestion? A black campaign vice chair or senior advisor will go a long way during the primary and send the message that Hillary puts her actions where her mouth is and actually does appreciate the black vote. I have been working on that and will resolve soon. We need to strengthen the overall structure, and this is the most critical piece of that, Podesta wrote back. Right now, I think we should do this right after Super Tuesday. It was the second time White expressed concern with Clinton apparently taking the black vote for granted. About a month before, he chastised the campaign for Clinton snubbing a get-together of African-American elites who could be potential donors, and there is a excerpt of that message. In the highlighted portion of it reads, "A lot of these didn't show because she wasn't coming. Result is that donors don't feel like the campaign thinks they're important. This spread squashes enthusiasm. We need more people singing her praises." And then there's a bunch of tweets after this that you could read if you want to pull that one up and read more about that. She doesn't care about anybody except Hillary. And I mean, it's just going to be a power hungry, war torn mess if she gets into office. Wow, wee woo. So that's what I had for you on all of this mess. Uh, I'll tell you what, there is nobody on this planet that's going to be any happier than me when this election is over with. I am so fed up with this election stuff. Oh my goodness gracious. I think I'm going to have a piece of chocolate cake and cleanse my palate. Bye.